Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is part 7 of the Mist Hashira. Enjoy. Slowly you craned your head back, as did Muichiro, and looked up to a demon hovering off the roof, with 8 tentacle-like appendages stemming from its body. But instead of the appendages being limb-like in appearance, they were the ghastly, stretched-out bodies of other demons, their bodies being contorted and twisted as the main body overhead used them to grab items to throw at you, blood oozing from their wounds and tears streaming from their empty eye sockets. You paled at the sight. "What on earth is that thing?" you screamed internally, staring wide-eyed at it before using your third form of yellow to slice a lamp in half as it came sailing towards you, unceremoniously lobbed at your head. As soon as you sliced the lamp in two, Muichiro sprang over the top of you, his sword up, ready to take on this octo-demon thing. Mist and colours of blue flashed in the room, while twisted figures of demons whipped around, defending the main body. As Muichiro swung his sword, he collected an arm of one of the demon appendages, and it was swiftly removed, with another one growing in its stead. But the next attack of his cut the whole demon from the main body, and it staggered on its own twisted legs, and then made towards you. "Ah!" you shrieked, jumping back as you called for your third form of yellow again to take it out, slicing it down the middle, and then quickly making a second horizontal swipe, and thus removing its head from its body. "Muichiro! The demons act on their own once removed from the main body!" you called. Muichiro stopped for a second, and looked up at the wound on the main body up on the roof. Nothing had grown back in its stead, so it only had 7 demon appendages to attack with now. "I'll cut them all off," he said out loud. "Wait, don't! Just attack the main body, and if you kill it, it might kill all of them," you said, adding the might in there, just in case you were wrong. You didn't want to be held responsible for that. The main demon, hanging out high up on the ceiling, cackled as it looked down at you both.
"And how do you propose to get up here?" it sneered at you. "Weak and useless humans. You can never realise your potential as a mere mortal. You'll forever be destined to walk on your own 2 feet, whereas I will soar above you."
It let out another crazed laugh, and you scowled a bit. "It, unfortunately, has a point, but I have an idea," you thought, as you ran over to Muichiro and posed your idea. "I have a plan," you whispered to him as you ran up beside him. "Well, I actually have 2 plans. It just depends on which one presents itself as an opportunity first." "What are they?" he asked, keeping his eyes on the demon. "Okay, first, you keep it busy and I'll try and take its head off with my 6th form," you said. The octo-demon, not wanting to give you the time to chit-chat down below him, picked up one of the demon appendages and wrapped it around another chair nearby. As it did so, you heard the bones of the demon cracking and breaking, and it made your hair stand on end.
"Playtime's over,"
the demon yelled, throwing the chair at you. You called for your 5th form of blue and threw up a blockade, making the chair rebound off your near-invisible wall and bounce the other way, making a hell of a racket as it clattered across the floor. "And second plan?" Muichiro asked. "If you do take off the other appendages and it comes down closer enough to the ground, then I can use 1st form," you replied quickly. "Red," he replied, and you grinned to yourself. The demon, enraged that you were still talking, then used 2 of its demon appendages to grab other items in the room to throw at you, now picking up remnants of the previous items and lobbing them, creating a flurry of smaller objects hurling through the room. You and Muichiro did your best to avoid getting hit by flying debris and tried to remain focused on somehow taking this octo-demon out, but it was proving more difficult than you first thought. Each time you tried to have a bit of breathing room from focusing on objects being thrown at you so that you could try and attack the main body, the octo-demon would redouble its efforts to keep you occupied on saving yourself and thus extending its time alive. "This isn't working. One of us needs to keep the demon occupied while the other tries to kill it," you thought, as you jumped over next to Muichiro. "Can you buy me some time? I'll see if I can get to it with ultraviolet," you said quickly to him. He nodded. "I'll do my best," he replied, keeping his eyes on the 7 demon-limbed octopus demon. You ducked around behind Muichiro and stayed there, making it look like you were using him for cover so that you could rest for a bit, but you were calculating the distance from behind Muichiro to the demon up on the roof, and thought that you had it measured pretty much dead on. "Okay, now I just got to get my timing right, and when Muichiro ducks, I got to throw the attack and nail this thing. No pressure though," you thought as you tried to steady your breathing. As you were waiting for your opportunity, you noted that you were shivering now and your fingers felt more stiff than usual. "Is it the adrenaline?" you wondered, very quickly, before Muichiro ducked and you threw your attack upwards. You felt the power course through your sword and then disappear, and you waited to see what would happen. Suddenly the roof exploded next to the demon, and it shrieked and moved quickly, causing all demon limbs to move at once, and you and Muichiro had to move fast too to keep out of its way, making sure not to get hit by anything. "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed," you shouted to Muichiro, your teeth chattering as you tried to call out. He looked at you. "Yin," he called, his eyes growing wider. "Do I move too much?" "Why? We need to defeat this thing," you replied, feeling your knees knocking together from shaking so much. A sudden determined look crossed his face, and he looked from you back to this demon, flicking his sword out once before hinging his body over and crouching right down low to the ground. "Here I come," he uttered lowly, before shooting forwards and disappearing, mist suddenly rising up to cover him. You couldn't see him at all. He and his movements had been completely immersed by this low cloud covering. But as you watched, you could hear the shrieking of the demon appendages, and the main body of the demon started to come down closer and closer to the floor of the room, inching into a very good strike range. Wanting to be of use before the demon got well into the mist, you made as if to run forwards, but could only manage a stagger as you weakly raised your arms above your head and called out your first form. "Red!" you chattered out between blue and purple lips, your breath misting out in front of you, your tongue feeling like it had been turned into a lump of solid ice in your mouth. You only managed 2 strikes with your first form before your vision started to ice over. "Oh, I'm so cold," you thought, and that was the last thing you remember thinking before you fell unconscious. It was another few minutes before Muichiro defeated the demon, and he turned around to find you. He had become gravely concerned for your health, as you had started to turn a different colour the last time he'd looked at you, and it was obvious that something was desperately wrong with you. "Yin!" he shouted into the mist as it dissipated from around him. He had been hoping that you would have at least replied to his call, but as soon as the mist had cleared, that's when he had seen your collapsed form on the ground. Hurriedly he ran to your side and placed a hand on your ribs, feeling for a heartbeat. He could feel that you were still alive, but your heart was slowing down, which wasn't a great sign, and your breathing was slowing down too. His eyes then detailed your face. Your once bright skin tone was now an icy bluish grey, and your lips and fingers were a deep purple. "She's been poisoned," he thought. "It was probably when she was inside that demon." Gently he scooped his arms up under you and lifted your freezing body to his chest, holding you for a second before turning around to face one of the smashed windows. "When I was younger, my father told me about herbs that would help neutralize the poison in someone's body. I need to find some, right now," he thought as he stepped towards the window, his shoes crunching on broken glass and wooden shards as he stepped over the last of the wreckage and walked out onto the balcony and jumped up onto the ledge there, looking out into the darkness with you clutched to his chest still. Without a second thought, he jumped from the ledge, still holding you, and then ran off into the bush, disappearing into the night. Look, we know that you're the main character and that Muichiro is the main character and that you're going to be okay, but what happens? We'll see you next week to find out if you're going to be okay.